ask, just for security purposes, as he didn't have his photo up on the Facebook group, and we don't know him from a bar of proverbial soap, and he looks like he's only joining via audio.
Well, he's not in it at all at the moment.
No, that's why I'm speaking now. Can we at least ask him to sort of tell us a bit about his background and that kind of thing?
I was also going to suggest that a few of the new people who've joined, it would be worth us following up and having a chat with offline, including John. I've had some correspondence with him via Facebook Messenger. Said he couldn't come tonight because this time he puts his kids to bed. We had a cordial exchange. I didn't ask anything about his particular background, but agree it's good to have that conversation. And we can certainly ask him to introduce himself tonight. And then I thought we could put together a bit of a list of all the people we want to follow up following the film night, and a few people who've joined since then. So that both for security purposes, but also for integration purposes. So we get a sense of who they are and what they're interested in and what they might like to contribute to XR, etc.
Was this person there on Thursday?
I don't believe so. They contacted us. They just put a message on the Darebin Facebook page saying they were keen to get involved. And then I just messaged them directly and gave them the info. So
okay. All right. Well, we'll see if we see them again. All right. We'll do a quick check-in. Hopefully that will give time for Jonathan to rejoin. And just tell us how you're going today. We lost Leslie as well.
Oh yeah, maybe momentarily. Everyone's having some
connection issues with us. Got two Freds.
Hi. Sorry I couldn't make it to you guys, and
Leslie's back. Maybe something up with the hosting. Just a quick check-in. Tell us how you're going today in brief. And I'm going very well.
Just very quickly that I'd sent the trolley song to everyone, and I'm working on the words of the trolley song so that the tune is the same, but the words are connected to what we're doing. So I think the oldies, and I thought maybe having a bell to ring the bell while we're wheeling the trolleys and timing the bell with the song. Anyway, that's an idea. I don't know how that appeals to anyone there, but if it appeals to anyone, just send me an email, send me a message on Signal.
No worries, Fred. That sounds electric. We will get to everyone's wonderful ideas about the trolley action in just a moment. But for starters,
about the videos, I have downloaded them from YouTube.
Hang on, Fred. We're just going to do a quick check-in.
I'm sorry. I'll keep quiet from now on. Thank you. Okay, sorry.
So I've been doing well. I've been running around a lot today and getting a lot of housework done, and that has been gratifying. I'll pass to Alex.
I've had a pretty quiet day, but I'm doing all right. I've been working on the film reading thing. I'll pass to Misha.
I'm well. I was in a forum today about insurance in a changing climate, which is very fascinating and disturbing and going to affect a very small portion of the population very, very badly, but also has, potential major implications for financial stability, for the economy, for housing values, for all sorts of things. So, that was really interesting. I'm actually off to Canberra tomorrow for the first sitting week of Parliament, so that's going to be interesting. I think we're meeting with Jenny McAllister's advisor, among other people, so it'd be interesting to get a sense. It's not from an XR perspective, from a work perspective, but if they let me into Parliament House, I might be on a blacklist. Anyway, that'll be interesting to see. Over to you, Rosaria.
Thanks, Misha. A bit like Mark, I've been doing a lot of running around. I had an appointment at the hospital to get my hands measured up for some therapy, and it took way longer than I expected, so I decided to join the meeting from home rather than running around some more. And I'll pass on to Marion.
Hello everybody. Thanks. The people who are at Francesca's for your wonderful clear voices. You can hear so well, and I'm not a great hearer, and so thanks very much for the way you're doing it and speaking so clearly. And I've had a pretty good day. I've been teaching at La Trobe really until 6 p.m. and then the bus just went door to door, so it's all working for me. I've got paid employment, even though it's still casual. So and it's great to have something else to think about than the completely devastating things that are happening in the world, particularly around the climate. So I just had to say that I have been very down about the climate, but today I've had a good day and it's good to be with you.
Thanks,
Sorry,
Mary.
and I'll pass to Alfred.
Oh, we're doing hotspot. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, Mary, we just had a minor disruption here. Who are you passing to again?
Alfred?
Oh, right.
Well-
Go, Fred?
Yeah, one sentence. I've downloaded the videos from YouTube, so anyone wants to see them again, I can send them the links.
Marvellous. Thank you. Thank you, Alfred. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing okay. My mentor's just got COVID, haha. But I'm starting my Sing with Fred in aged care homes. And I'm also, I still have to send you a song about climate change, which was done by an Irish lady 2 years ago, which needs polishing up.
Yes, I remember you talking to me about that.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yes, please do. Jonathan, welcome.
G'day. Hi. Sorry, yeah, I'm all very new to this. And I'm trying to pay attention while I'm trying to force one kid into the bath, but yeah.
We're just doing a quick check-in. Do you want to tell us how you're going and maybe how you found yourself here?
Yeah, so I'm a high school teacher. I actually teach geography. So I've been aware of all this stuff for quite a while, but I think, like a lot of people, I think my grief's actually just become a bit full on recently. So I just finished reading a lot of stuff by Peter Kalmus, you know, the NASA scientist, and he talked a fair bit about the only way to deal with it is to get more engaged. So yeah, that's what I'm doing here. Yeah, and I've just moved to the area as well. So yeah.
Brilliant. It's really lovely to have you. You can't see our names, so that's Misha, whose head is at the side of the screen there.
I think she sent me the link. Yeah.
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 This is Alex, and my name's Mark.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you'll get everyone else's names from the Zoom.
And just do what you need to do, John, if you need to do that.
Yeah,
with the video
they're starting to scream about something.
whatever.
So
Yeah.
I'll keep listening though.
Yeah.
Yeah, all good.
And lucky last, I think, is Leslie Fraser.
Yeah, sorry, we had a power blackout and I lost my laptop connection, so I'm on my phone for the moment, and if I get the green light, literally, I might jump back on the laptop. My goal for the meeting in the next little while is I'd love to be able to carve out a manageable role in the group without having to do quite so many roles as I did during the last Just Stop It campaign. So I hope modest, but achievable. Now, is there anyone who has not spoken? I was offline there for a while.
I think that's everyone. So we will get cracking. Now, I believe Misha's put together a bit of a draft agenda. So if we could hear about that and then hear any other contributions.
Yeah, so the key things on the agenda were a debrief on the film night, and there's a few sub-items there, an update on the merger and talking about things like roles within Northside and that kind of thing, and communications, an update from Alex about the conscientious protectors screenings, and then into some trolley action planning. And then there was a little bit of other business as well. We've got potentially some other rebels. I think maybe a couple of people might join us about 7:15 to talk about the trolley action. So we'll try and get through as much of the other business before then, but we'll have to see how we go. So yeah, debrief on the film night.
Alrighty. So you'll find this riveting, Jonathan. It's a whole event that just happened that you didn't know about and didn't attend. We're now going to talk about it. But to quickly brief you in, we had a sort of outreach night, film night happen on Thursday night, where we showed some short films relating to the cause, brought some new people in, reactivated some old members, threw a bunch of food at them, and then got them to start designing in action. And so, yeah, we're just going to have a little chat about how that all went. I wasn't super involved in the organizing, so I'll make my sole contribution, which is to say I think it went fantastically well, and I'm very proud of everybody. So I'll cede the floor to those more involved.
Who wants to jump in?
By hand? Marion?
Maybe we could start with a round of what we thought went well and then maybe what could be improved.
So congratulations on the choice of films. I thought that the films were just so well chosen. So just absolutely, I don't know who did that work, because there would have been a lot to choose from. So just congratulations on the quality and relevance, and you know, the runtime, everything was great. The running of the overall night was really, really great. So hats off again to Leslie and Misha for doing that really great event, and wonderful comments from people attending.
That's great. Thanks, Marion. Yeah, I thought it came together really well. It was a great team effort. I'm sad that the beautiful photos that Leslie W. put together didn't get as much attention as they deserve, but I'm hoping there'll be other opportunities to use those. Yeah, I thought that pulling people immediately into action planning worked really well. People were really energised and had lots of ideas to contribute, so I thought that worked really well. My ideas for improvement was I should have done a better job of checking the tech beforehand and that the links worked, and making sure that we had good sound. So it was more technical side of things, but otherwise I thought the kind of running order and the films and all the content worked really well, and the food was great, and yeah, everyone played a role, and yeah, I thought it came together really well. So thank you everyone for contributing.
Mm-hmm. Rosario or Leslie, you have any thoughts about it? What went well? What didn't go so well?
I'm happy to have a go. I thought it went really well. I loved seeing all the people who attended. It was obviously well advertised. A lot of people knew about it, so the organisation was really good, with enough lead time to be able to do the comms and get the word out there. It seemed to me that people were hungry for something to do. And yeah, I think rallying people around a few films was a great idea as well. The only improvement that I could think of was the sound in the films, which I understand, these things can't be helped sometimes. Possibly the room could have been a little bit larger, but then again, we didn't really know how many people were going to attend, and so I think we did really, really well. Leslie?
Yeah, thanks. Agreed. I felt there was quite a wonderful spirit, and I thank everyone who pitched in who took on the tech role or pitched in to help when help was needed. I agree about the room, and now that we've merged, and if we do anything similar, we have a longer run-in and we could find a bigger room. Definitely. In terms of that, partly the catering was difficult because of the crowdedness of the room, and poor Leslie W. had too many roles. So I would in future separate bringing food and have drinks and cups and mugs separately. That's a separate role for someone to do that. And that I'm talking something very minor. Was there anything else? Look, no, I'm scraping around looking for little petty things to complain about. So, I think it was extremely good, and just love the spirit in the room, and so many familiar faces and some new faces. So that's it from me. Is there anyone who hasn't spoken?
Yeah, we got Fred and Alex. We'll go to Fred.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to congratulate all the organisers because of the constraints of the small room and handing out around the food and putting the whiteboard up and adjusting. So I think you did a marvellous job. Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah, I think it went really well. Everyone I spoke to at the event said like they were having a great time. They were really enthused. They were really keen to get into action. Whether that translates to anything or not remains to be seen, but they were very excited on the day. The noise, the sound was obviously mentioned already. I do have a petty complaint that the door down the hallway was really loud. So the sound being low and the door opening and closing all the time, I couldn't hear a lot of the time. But that's not anything we could do anything about.
Yeah. So, sorry, Misha.
No, I was just going to, the only other improvement that I would suggest was for future events, it would be good to have a better strategy for signing people up. So we did kind of hurriedly put send a bit of paper around and got people's emails, but we didn't get their phone numbers. So we'll need to now follow people up by email, ask them for their phone numbers, etc., to try and get them onto Signal. Mark's suggestion about getting people onto Signal immediately was good, but also a bit chaotic in the course of the event. So I'm not sure what the answer is to that, given that we've, it used to kind of be easier because people could put themselves onto Mattermost and kind of get themselves involved. But now that we use Signal, it does make it a little bit more challenging. So yeah, that's my only other theory feedback room for improvement.
Yes. Yeah, and so having a sign-up sheet and having people ready to start installing Signal on people's phones.
Yeah.
It's a good way to counteract that. I did have a couple of thoughts. Well, I wanted to know what exactly was done to promote it, because there was obviously a fantastic turnout. I don't know if anybody got head count, but I would have said at least 30 people, right?
I reckon there were 50 people there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of those were old or are currently active versus completely new, but yeah, fantastic turnout. And we never get like that to events that we just send an email out. So I'm just interested to know what sort of promo work was done. And the lead time is about 5 weeks.
Yeah. So I think giving people a lot of notice is a good idea.
Yeah.
Because they can plan ahead and book it into their calendars. In terms of promo, I was blitzing their emails.
Yeah.
And we also, interestingly, the one that I sent one maybe 2 or 3 weeks out, the initial one saying we're having a film night, and then a week before I sent a follow-up email, and Rosario sent one out to Moreland saying, 1 week to go, and we actually got quite a few extra sign-ups with that 1 week to go email, which was interesting. And then we also had the Facebook event, which a few people signed up from, but most people signed up from the email.
Okay.
But we have 2,000 people on the email list,
Sure.
So that's quite a big.
Is that
That's what we did.
Yeah. Right. We got about 600 on us. So.
Yeah.
Interesting. Leslie?
Yeah, I put out I knew that Misha was and others were really hitting the emails and our legacy signups. We also, as you may recall, mentioned it through the Just Stop It phone calling that we did. And also I put the word out on all my local networks, my friends of Mary Creek and Stationeers, and I think the Rebels chalked it on the Rebel Weeders chalked it on the path. And I think we had about 5 or 6 people from Darebin Greens. I put it up on there on the Darebin Greens internal.
We definitely promoted to like-minded organisations. So we promoted
Exactly
to
right. He can,
and a few other local groups as well. Yeah,
that's right.
Fantastic. And yes, as far as sound goes, for the upcoming West Side one, I'll be bringing my own musical sound system, so should hopefully not have that issue. I thought the films were fantastically chosen. I mean, like, after watching them, like, you know, I felt like I was fired up all over again. Rosario? You're on mute.
Sorry, I had to minimize my screen, so now I can't see. I was just going to say that we also were on other social media, Instagram and Twitter. Matthew from Marybeck did do quite a Twitter campaign.
Right. It'd be really interesting to know when we're following up with folks who are there where they found out about it.
we can put that in the follow-up questions. And I should be able to see on Action Network as well where people came from.
Yes.
Although I think I fucked up the link, so some of them say they're coming from nowhere.
Fred?
Just getting back to the films, as I recall, the discussion was mainly about the trolley program rather than the films when we were there. And I'm wondering if there's a way of getting feedback from people who watch the films in some way or other without necessarily a Zoom. And I think sending a little questionnaire to people to ask them a sort of an open-ended questionnaire to send a message in to indicate what they felt about the films and what could be done in future about the films. I've got a couple of ideas. I think a trailer would be a good idea, and the second is a selection of the text and pictures so that we get the message of the films across. I've done that before and I'm willing to do it again.
Great. All righty. In the interest of time, I sort of want to move us on. But is there any last words that we want to have about the film night?
Well, there's just a couple of follow-ups.
Okay.
So one is the financial stuff. So Leslie needs to be reimbursed, and we also discussed making a donation to Matt, given all the volunteer filmmaking and photography work he does for XR. I'm not sure how best to organise that, but there seems to be agreement for that. I don't know whether any of the people who contributed food and those kinds of things would be wanting any contribution, or people are happy just to contribute that. I don't know. But obviously we need to make sure Leslie's reimbursed for the venue hire.
Leslie?
Yeah, Claire Weekly, who's a signatory to the Marybeck account, the bank Marybeck account, she's willing to reimburse me straight away. I've sent her a photo of the receipt. However, that opens the broader issue of how we're going to handle finances. At the moment, Marybeck do have an account, but the signatories are Claire Weekly and Reem, who I think it's the Reem from Friends of the Earth, neither of whom is a current really active member of Marybeck any longer. I see Claire all the time because she's my off-sider with Friends of Mary Park Wetland. So to cut to the chase, is the group happy if Claire reimburses me? But we also need to discuss what we're doing or financially.
Rosario.
Yes, so I had already, because I was holding the jar with the money in it from recent outreach events, and I had the cash to be able to reimburse Leslie. I had offered that money knowing that there'd be no there'd been no objections to it from other rebels. There were some other Marybeck people at the meeting where I offered that money, or it might have been, it was on the chat, so there were no objections on the chat. However, as things progressed and it looked like the request for reimbursement was being pushed out, I thought I would just bank all the money, and so then of course it became an issue to speak to Claire. It's not entirely true that Claire is no longer, I mean, she's not doing a lot of things, but she still checks our email and she's still in charge of the finances and is one of the signatories. And so we've always checked with her, and she still forms part of the leadership group. Like whenever we message within that group, she's part of it. So Reem definitely has pulled back. But I'm meeting with Claire this Saturday because she agrees that we need to hand over the signatory role at least to other people. It was just that during lockdown, we were hardly spending any money. We weren't taking any money, we weren't spending any money, and so she just stayed with it. But yeah, I just wanted to give you that history. So I know that on Saturday there is going to be some sort of, we'll talk about a process for handing over. So I was really glad that we were going to talk about it tonight, because then I could have more direction from all of you to put to Claire.
Thanks, Rosaria. As far as sorting it out tonight, I don't know if we feel we have the authority between us to make any final decisions. But it strikes me that it would be worth finding volunteers to be the new signatories, perhaps before that Saturday meeting. And I'd propose that that's probably best done in the Northside discussion chat. What do people think about that?
Unless there's someone who wants to put their hand up here.
It has already come up in the chat, and Matthew has put his hand up to be one of the signatories. I don't know if Misha, Alex, Mark, if any of you have seen that, but it's definitely there.
No, it must have been in a Marybeck chat.
Oh, okay, maybe it's in a Marybeck chat. Okay, so he's put his hand up.
All right.
Would be good to probably have someone who's sort of ex-Darebin person as well.
Leslie?
Oh, I just said, can I be reimbursed before this process?
Yeah.
I would appreciate
we
that.
moved into merger matters. Actually wanted to follow up the film night. So maybe if we could just finish that, because there was one other thing I wanted to raise about the film night.
Okay.
The one is reimbursing Leslie. I think we can all agree that we're happy for Leslie to be reimbursed. Yes? Yep. Great.
Okay.
In terms of donations, perhaps what I'll do is put a message in the discussion chat and put my bank details, and anyone who wants to make a donation, I'll put an end date and say, please put a donation in my account by this date if you trust me to transfer it to Matt, which I promise I will. And then I can just transfer what the sum total is, and it's up to people entirely whether they put in $2 or $20 or, whatever they want to contribute. Does that sound okay, or is that a bit of a weird process for people?
Well, I just will say that I think Matt has a standing GoFundMe for that purpose.
Yeah, okay.
So if I dig up the link for that, then maybe we can just skip that step and go straight into Matt's pocket.
Yeah, I just thought it would be nice to do kind of a group contribution.
Yeah, okay.
But we could still say, maybe we could ask people to kind of say, put a message in saying thanks for, sharing your film at the film night or something, so that it's clear that's what it's related to.
Cool.
Yeah. And the other thing was, sorry. Go, sorry.
I'd just like to say one more thing about Matt. I would be, as a Marybeck member for quite some time, I would be very happy to propose that the Marybeck account make a contribution to Matt. Matt didn't just, show up the other day to the film with the film. He has done a lot of work with us, with Mary Beck. He came many times on short notice to our Saturday mornings last year and took photographs, and as you all know, he comes from Geelong and he never asked for anything, but I would really like to propose. I don't know what the size of the contribution should be, whether it, a token or I don't know what you all think, but I think that it would be good to, even maybe give $30 or $50 from the account to him. I'm proposing that.
Right. We did end up with a minutes taker, right?
Yeah, Rosario's taken.
Right, so pop that for minutes.
So Matt's put his hand up to be a signatory. Is there someone ex-Darebin who is interested in being a signatory? Otherwise, we can put a call out in the chat.
Pull out in the chat.
Sorry, one last thing. I'll put together a list of people who came to the film night who are new or who've joined recently. And it would be, and I'll just put it in a little spreadsheet, and it would be great if people wanted to give people a call or send an email. I can email everyone with a generic email, but then ask them to give us their phone number so we can call them, just to get a sense of, who people are, what their background is, what their, skills are, what their interests are, what they'd like to contribute to XR, etc. So are people happy to get involved in that? There's maybe a dozen people maximum who are new, whom it would be worth following up with. Would people be willing to help with that? I really think it's worthwhile that we follow people up after the event.
Was this via phone, or how are we contacting them? Sorry, I missed the first part of what you said.
Some people we have phone numbers for, most we only have emails, so what we'll have to do is send an email first and ask people for their phone numbers. But I'll put together a spreadsheet in the next few days, and I'll put what information we have, and then maybe people can nominate, like who they're going to contact.
Yeah, Leslie?
Yeah, I already contacted the Sarah Thomas and the other young...
Kate.
Kate's joined the trolley signal group, I think. So I've already talked to them.
Great.
Right. Are you proposing a particular time that could happen, Michelle?
Oh, I was just suggesting people would nominate that they'll do these 3 people and that they do that in their own time. So I'll create a spreadsheet and circulate it to people because I've got the list of sign-ups.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Leslie. Marion? You're on mute, but it sounds like you're just putting your hand up for that.
Yep, I'll do that. I can ring some people or email, ask for their number. Yep, sure.
Thanks, Marianne. Is that on to merger matters then?
Yes.
All right. We got provisionally 5 minutes before we get to the really fun stuff, Jonathan. Not all this boring admin minutia. Action planning. But before we get there, we've got to talk about the recent merger routes. So what's to be said?
One thing is we still don't have formal confirmation from Yarra that they want to merge with us, which is really annoying. I'm not quite sure how to pursue this. I've kind of put as many messages out. I've contacted Mark Furlong directly. I put a message into all the Yarra people in the chat. Rob responded and said, he personally agreed. And most people I've spoken to individually seem to agree, but they don't currently really have a structure or regular meetings to be able to kind of formally agree it. So I don't know whether we just run with it or how we address that, because I'd really like to sort out the email thing in particular so people aren't getting multiple copies of the same email.
Leslie?
Yeah, I spoke to Mark at our co-arrestee, Mother Earth, at the film night, and he was okay. Joseph, soy flat white, he's okay about it. Rob, as you say, he posted even in the chat that he thinks it's a good idea. Anne is very keen, having once Mark opened the room and it was just the 2 of them and no one came. Meanwhile, to my knowledge, no one has said bad idea.
Yeah. So we
Yarra before we even consider this. None of that happened. So I'd say go.
I could have a specific yarn with Anthony, who goes to the forest. Is he in Yarra? He was at the film though.
is it Anthony who does the tech stuff?
Morford?
He's a mathematician and he comes to the forest. That's what I know about him. He's an academic at Melbourne Uni, lives in Carlton.
Yeah, that's Anthony Morford.
Yep. So I'm very happy to give him a call and just say that's...
I think I'm happy to just go with the flow. If we think there have been no objections and all the active people are keen, let's just go with it. Because really just need to get on with it.
What is the email issue? Like, are there emails coming out from Excel Yarra at the moment? Or?
Well, it's just that we've been having to send emails to the Moreland, Darabin and Yarra list separately because I don't have authority to send to everyone. So we need to create an amalgamated list, which Anthony can do for us, but I wanted to wait until Yarra authorises us to do that. So, yeah.
I think we have more or less done that.
Yeah.
Great. Any further emergent matters?
Yeah, so we kind of need to figure out a regular meeting time and place. And I also wondered about we've got 3 different Facebook pages at the moment, whether we wanted to merge those. And we also need to sort out roles. So do we want to nominate or elect an internal coordinator, external coordinator, treasurer for the financial stuff, liaison people for JSI, for example, as a whole range of things. We could potentially defer that to the next meeting, but there's probably a bunch of other stuff that we do need to sort out eventually.
Yeah, it does strike me that with the limited attendance, that it might be worth getting more consultation on this and more potential volunteers for roles.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe we defer that till next time unless there's anything that we need to urgently address now.
I guess speaking, Rosetta.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that as one of the people who has been doing some of the work on the socials, Facebook and Instagram for Mary Beck, I am very concerned that, you know, what are we going to do about that? Are we going to merge them, you know, with some notice, just or plaster something onto, you know, the Facebook page saying, you know, we've now become Northside, please, you know, follow us there.
You speak up, please, Rosario.
Oh, sorry. Maybe can you hear me better now?
Marginally.
Yeah, sorry, there's a bit of music in the background here.
Oh, okay. Yes, I will try to speak up, and I might even does it help if I raise my microphone?
Yeah, it's all good. Keep going.
Okay, so yeah, I am concerned that we do something about the Facebook and Instagram and, you know, Twitter socials, because, you know, we can't, it's not tenable to keep going with the old one and the new one.
Can we defer that to our next meeting, Rosario, do you think?
Yeah. Can I just make a couple of contributions quickly on 2 of those points? Firstly, as far as a regular meeting time goes, it strikes me that you got 50 people on a Thursday. So that might be due some consideration. And as far as the socials go, first blush, my thought would be to find the one that's got the most followers already and change its name to Northside, and then try and do your best to migrate the other followers over. Welcome to Jody and Francisco.
Hello, hello.
Joining us from Westside to discuss the action. Leslie, you got something to say?
Oh, I didn't know if you were joking or not, but of course Thursday is Action Circles and Vic local group support.
Right, yes.
Yeah. And I think, but we're deferring the whole meetings, that we're going to defer
Well,
it
no,
to...
we do need to figure out meeting time, so that probably is the one thing that's worth talking about tonight, at least as an interim measure. Yeah, Tuesday night obviously works okay for most of us here. It's the existing Darebin meeting time, so a lot of Darebin people have worked around it. I know it doesn't work for Mark Furlong, who's one of the main active people in Yarra. It would potentially work better for him if we started a bit earlier, if we started at 6. So that is certainly something we could consider. Do it as a usual 6 to 7 meeting slot, if that worked for people. Were there any other suggestions? The other thing we could do is put out like a doodle poll or something, but, I don't know. Alex?
I put a poll in the Marybeck chat
Oh, yeah.
a while ago. Only like 5 people responded to it. Most were either Tuesdays okay, but actually most of them were either day, Monday or Tuesday is fine. Rebecca can't come on a Tuesday with the only no, and she's the only really, the person who's been coming to most of the meetings at Marybeck recently. But one other person who I've never met before said that they could only come on Tuesdays, and that was
okay. And Rebecca's away for the next 6 weeks or so, is that right?
I think she's here for a little while, and then she's going away for a while. Yes.
Yeah.
Zaria?
No, Alex has covered it. Thanks.
Okay.
So Tuesday's the worst day for me because I'm teaching till 6. So so any earlier would make it. I just wouldn't do it.
Maybe we'll just put maybe it's worth just putting a poll in the new Northside chat. Nice. Yeah. And we'll just see how we go. And we'll try and do that soon so that we can sort it out ahead of the next meeting. Okay.
All right. Turning to the matter at hand, we have Jody, we have Fran joining us to talk about an upcoming action, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is going to be on the 27th of August, presumably sometime during the day. I don't know if we've nailed the time. So to bring you all up to speed, at the end of the film night on Thursday, we pitched the crowd and got them to break into small groups to come up with some ideas around an action involving trolleys, focusing on food scarcity on the 27th of August. They were the only criteria, and potentially in a, as public a place as we can manage in Northside, something like Sydney Road in Brunswick, and a bevy, shall we say, of diverse ideas were proposed. So I think probably the best thing to do maybe would be for perhaps Misha to run through some of those, although I know that Jody and Fran are here with a very specific idea in mind.
But I'm happy to just quickly run through the key ideas that came up at the event. So one thing we didn't talk about, and it's probably worth us discussing tonight, but I'll just mention it for now, is that we didn't really talk about what the purpose of the action was, and I think that's useful for us to discuss tonight because that will determine what the tone and look and feel and everything of the action is and the location. So is it, for example, are we planning to disrupt business as usual? Is that the focus, or is it more of an outreach, mobilisation, not necessarily disruptive kind of event? There were certainly some differences of opinion from people about whether or not they wanted to be involved in something disruptive. We had a few people come along who, didn't necessarily want to be disrupting traffic. Now, obviously, that sort of XR strategy. So it's not to say that we necessarily defer to those ideas. In terms of location, there were lots of different ideas. So I had originally had in mind that we would be doing it on somewhere like Sydney Road, so on a public road, but there were lots of suggestions about doing it potentially inside a supermarket, or inside a shopping centre, or potentially in the car park, even occupying car parking spaces. There was even a suggestion to do it in a park opposite Barclay Square on Sydney Road, where apparently some things have happened in the past. We didn't explicitly talk about whether it would be a green, orange or red action, but generally most of the ideas were sort of green and maybe a hint of orange. There was a suggestion of maybe sort of connecting the trolleys up in a circle and doing a dine in the middle, which might have a slightly orange tinge to it. Look and feel, there were some different ideas. So there was, I would say, probably general support for something kind of energetic and noisy, but not comic. But on the other hand, there was some support for a more serious, somber kind of action, noting that, obviously, the impacts of food shortages will be very serious. People will be, hungry, etc. That's a serious issue, and we might need to treat that with more gravitas. And then there was a lot of suggestions about kind of props and action and sort of things that we might do as part of the action. So things like if we wanted it to be a noisy action, we could use pots and pans. Obviously, that has symbolic appeal in terms of food. There was a lot of discussion about what we do with the trolleys. Would they be empty or would they have things in them? So, for example, they could be filled with oil or coal, or they could be filled with dead animals or burnt timber, etc. There were suggestions about trailing empty tin cans and tin packets, sort of an emptiness kind of theme, or having big food. There was enthusiasm for having the bike skeletons involved in some way. We could have an inconvenience store or a closed shop or something like that. And I know that Duff, one of the people who was at the meeting, had done something like that and actually had a kind of fake shop that he'd used before that we could potentially use for the action. In terms of what we do, there were lots of different ideas. Swarming on green lights in a non-disruptive way, a die-in potentially, as I suggested, we could link the trolleys together and have a die-in. There was talk about a trolley conga line or a dance, a food auction where people are having to bid for food, even trolleys chasing food down the street. So yeah, as you can see, lots and lots of ideas. In terms of who would be involved or who are the kind of people in the action, it was suggested that this should be about some ordinary people and children, etc. But there were other ideas about it could involve farmers, people dressed as farmers, could involve the Red Rebels in some way, bees, as Fran and Jodie are going to talk to us about tonight, skeletons. There were suggestions about sort of having emaciated-looking people. So yeah, lots and lots of ideas. So tonight is the purpose is really to try and kind of hone it down a little bit. And get some agreement on some of the kind of key elements so that we can actually get on with the guts of doing the action planning. Was there anything else people wanted to throw in terms of what came up at the film night?
Well, I will just jump in to say two things. Firstly, welcome Mary Kitby from Westside. 3 guest stars this evening. What was the other thing I was going to say? No, it's fallen out of my head. Oh, yes, that's right. For those not in the know, green, orange, red, that's terminology that we use to determine how disruptive and risky an action is. So a red action is an action where we are breaking the law and we're pretty sure that's going to result in arrests. An orange action is something that we don't expect arrest, but we're aware of the risk. For instance, something like swarming on a road on the green lights, not technically illegal, not technically disruptive, but the police might still want to stop you from doing it in some way. So we have to be aware of that. And then a green action is something that's non-disruptive and, well, ideally and, very, 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 very unlikely to result in arrest. So just to explain that a little bit. Just from my experience, and since we have a small group here, I know that when it comes to actions, I know we like to do democratic participation and horizontal organizing, but I know when it comes to actions that people do like to get on a moving train. So yeah, I'd be really keen for us to nail down a few of the key aspects here tonight, if we can. Do you want to give us this B pitch then?
Oh, Rosaria's got her hand up.
Oh, sorry.
I just have a question, because it was really hard for me to try and get all that material.
I've captured the notes from the film night, Rosaria.
Yes, so I was going to ask you to remind me, where are those notes, because I remember reading them.
They're in the Trolley Troubadours chat.
Oh, the Troubadours. Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, can we hear from our guests about something to do with bees?
Hi everyone. Thanks for Thursday's movie night. That was a really fantastic night. I really enjoyed it and I thought it was a great idea. I was having a chat to Fran on Friday about it, and I was telling him how great it was. And Fran mentioned something about like he's looking at creating a Blinky style creature, and I said, "Oh wow, what about a bee?" Because I thought of food security. You know, obviously, everyone knows that bee population is crashing, and that without it, the food security is not great. It's symbolic to XR, and it's a good play on words like "be the change" or other little slogans like that too. And yeah, so it was sort of discussed that that we would have a chat to the people at Northside in regards to a bee. So Fran's done quite a bit of homework on bees and bee puppets or bee machines. So I'm going to pass it to Fran if that's okay, unless someone has any questions for me, because that's all I've got.
Thanks, Jody.
Hi guys, I just got too excited and started to draft ideas here and there, and I'm just sharing the screen of we're starting modeling, and just trying to find something that we can use and we can start small and then make it more complex. So that is kind of the starting point, kind of this bee, and the idea is this will be kind of the general idea. Can you see it properly? I don't know if you can see it.
Yes.
So right now at home I got a little machine that is able to pull very heavy loads and is very heavy and stable. So we currently have as an asset a trailer and with a box trailer, and this machine here that will be able to pull anything that we want. My initial idea, this is just on draft stage, so all comments and variations are welcome, was fitting into that machine just the puppet and making it move, maybe just making it move the tail or the head, so we can simulate that the bee is alive, and eventually we can do a die-in. We can borrow the big speaker that normally Rob has, and just have a constant bee sound, kind of zzz, and suddenly very loud, and suddenly it just goes off. That was kind of one of the idea was crossing around. Having said that, this would be tight. We could make it. I reckon. I think that if if everyone is happy with that, we could have it an skeleton in around 2 weeks, between 2 to 3 weeks from now. So it would be left just 1 weekend for putting the skin. What I mean is kind of covering the thing with some kind of foam and painting it. Yes?
I love it, and it really fits with the idea of a swarm. Could there be a consideration for having one of our Australian native bees, because they're much closer to extinction, and some of the people in the revegetation movement reckon that, you know, the honeybee, you know, that gets a lot of attention because of the because of that industry, which they say is exploiting the forest. And I don't particularly, but if it could be superficially, just the colours changed. But I love the bee, I love the noise. We're really familiar with them, and it fits with the swarm thing. But if we could just tweak it to make it more like an indigenous species.
Yeah, that would be just a matter of painting.
All right. Is that it as far as pictures go, Fran?
But because of the time constraint, because that would be very tight, and for making it happen, I would need to contact Barb. That she contacted me a couple of weeks ago during the action at Parliament, and she was willing. She received some donation, and she was willing to raise it with the with everyone to kind of spend around 2K in a new crop. So I was doing a couple of numbers, and I reckon that depending on if we don't spend much on painting and so on, it would be somewhere around 1K. So we would need, for making this happen, we will need that kind of money. Don't worry about the machine or the trailer because I got them already.
Yeah.
It will be only around just this guy, okay? For this action, it will be very kind of simple. Probably we will be able only to move it, maybe just the head or the wings, so we can make that it's alive and then it dies or something like that. We will decide that if we want to go ahead, but it will be tight. Huh? I repeat, it will be tight. Okay. So I was thinking about some alternative, some of them a little bit dodgy, but I will show them in the screen that I just did a little bit quickly. So the easiest way for with the timeline that we got, it would be putting the bee, someone just dressed as a bee on here, on top of the trailer, and then kind of taking the trailer and making it look like a hive, and just people can come out of it, or we can, and just with the same deal with the noise, and maybe we can do a die-in. The machine is already with the same colors as like a bee, is yellow and black. I don't know how it will go with the Australian bee. Yeah, that would be it. And I was having a look at how much would it cost to find a costume for a bee, and I found some. The one that you see on the images is they cost $25, and
Okay.
we could have them in 2 weeks. I will share the.
Definitely the cheaper option.
Sorry.
Definitely the cheaper option.
Yeah, the cheaper option. More about the money is about the timeline, in my opinion. That's what the risk I see. And we could use something alternative instead of. Can you see it? Instead of having the puppet, I could prepare the same prop, so we could put someone on top, kind of flying off the machine.
That'd be cool.
And
Misha?
that would be very easy. I would just need to buy a piece of strong steel so it's stable, and just prepare it so it's safe, so for someone to be there, so they could move. It would be easier. It would be more alive, and I think it might be a good starting point.
Great. Misha?
Thanks, Fran, for all the thinking and research and design that you've put into this. I think it's a fantastic idea. I just wonder, given how tight the timing is, whether this actually is worth a standalone action. Given we have sort of ideas kind of ready to go for the trolley action, and we could kind of pursue that. And this is, like I think we could create another action. We want to continue to build momentum in the lead up to JSI. Given how tight the timing is, I don't think it's necessary to have it it would be wonderful to have it at the trolley action, but I don't think it's necessary. And we can have a focal point on the trolleys for the trolley action, and then you could take your time to develop this up, and perhaps we have this as a lead-in event action in the lead up closer to JSI. My feeling is of the kind of fallback option is that you don't really need the mechanical option to just sort of transport people on a trailer. Like, for me, that kind of suggests you're using energy unnecessarily because people could just walk. So I feel like for it to be worthwhile, you probably like having the mechanical bee that's what the point of it is. So I feel like taking the time to develop that would be my suggestion, but very open to other people's thoughts.
Fran, do you mind just stopping the screen share for
Sorry, man.
see everybody's hands?
Sorry, because
Okay.
I was assenting. I didn't I didn't realize that no one was watching me.
Yeah, so I guess I'd like to hear people's thoughts about it, but more than that, I'd like someone else to take over for 2 seconds while I go to the balloon.
I'm happy to direct traffic while Mark's in the toilet. Did anyone else have any thoughts on Fran and Jodie's proposal? Mary?
Oh, look, it looks just great. I think it deserves an action of its own. I really do. And it'd be lovely to have plenty of time to
Yeah, probably.
make proper preparations for it, because this is just the kind of thing we need. But we've already got, the potential of the trolley action is to have lots of really good visual stuff happening. So I'd save it for absolutely agree. You should save it for another, and an action of its own. Yeah.
Thanks, Mary. Alex?
Oh, I was going to say exactly what Mary said.
And I love the idea of turning the trailer into a hive and having people dressed as bees emerging out of that as part of it as well. So having the mechanical bee and then also having the human bees behind as well. I think that's brilliant, and having it, designed as a hive. Yeah, Jodie.
Yeah, I agree, and because it would be good if we were able to create something like a Blinky style mascot that can be used over and over, and that's its maiden voyage, I guess. It'd be good if we could really focus around that as an action in itself. Yeah, I agree. Yep.
Yeah, similar to how we introduced Blinky, and we had the action at Katani Gardens that was very focused on Blinky and introducing Blinky, and now Blinky tours around and does lots of stuff. But yeah, we could have a similar action that's focused on the bees.
So it sounds like we're coming around on yes, absolutely do it, but do it another time. We'll definitely all be there. It sounds absolutely rad, and I think you'll probably have some willing volunteers to help paint it when the time comes as well. But don't stress yourself about getting it done in 4 weeks.
Yeah, I was stressing, huh? I was already doing numbers. Oh man.
Was there anything else you wanted to say, Fran, before we wrap that?
No, it's just that. So I don't know if someone, just one thing, because I tried to reach Barb, as I was telling you, but I think she's taking a break or something. I don't know if someone...
Barb's been hard to get in contact with recently.
Yeah. If someone, I don't know, Misha, if you got a hold of her, if she answers me, I will show him the concept, because I don't know if you like that, I will propose that to her, because that will be something that it will be taken a little bit higher in the kind of more Victoria-wise level. So if you are happy with that, I don't know because at the beginning I was thinking another creature, but if the people that is here agree, just in order to pitch that to Barb instead of the other concept that I had.
I reckon go ahead and pitch it to Barb, Fran. Yeah, I have a feeling, she's taking a bit of a break at the moment because she hasn't been responding to messages that I've been sending about.
Yeah, in that case, I will start putting it a little bit more clear with numbers and just wait till the opportunity. Okay.
Thanks, folks. All right, we've got 20 minutes till the end of our hour and a half. Let's make some calls, shall we?
What happened to Leslie? Does anyone know?
She did put something in the chat just before she
okay.
So let me just have a quick look at... Going to...
Oh, okay.
Needs a break from planning actions. All right, cool. Jodie? No? Okay.
So I guess one thing that would just be worth touching base about is, some of those key things about what's the purpose, whether it's disruptive, and the tone in particular, I think would be key to land. And then the other thing is, I think it would be great to get onto promotion as soon as possible, which means we need to lock in time and location, and maybe some key messages to put in a Facebook and Action Network event, etc., so we can get that out there. So if we could land all of those things tonight, I think that would be awesome.
All right. I'll make some proposals.
Yes.
12 or 1, around lunchtime, Saturday,
Yeah.
Yeah. Around lunchtime, Berkeley Square, Sydney Road, Nixon trolleys, and do a swarm on the green lights, and then hold the red light for 1 at the end of it as a sort of introductory action, mostly focused more on anything else than, focused more than anything else on outreach, but with a little practice of being on the roads for new folks. Do it for an hour. Main roles will be handing out flyers. Someone, I don't want to put you on the spot, Mesha, but someone mentioned last night in the XL Westside meeting that there was potential talk of some choreographed trolley movement. If that can come together, that'd be rad, or something like it. I don't know how to dress the trolleys up as part of the swarm, but in terms of the actual mechanics of the action, we're talking about people swarming onto the road and off again and getting as many flyers out as possible. That's what we're there to do. What do people think about that?
So shall we throw some ideas into the mix and then we can kind of do some temperature checking?
Good idea.
Yeah. Timing sounds good. The other option is slightly earlier. I don't, in terms of the brunch crowd, I don't, people in Marybeck might have a better idea of when Sydney Road's at its busiest on a Saturday, whether it would be better to do it at sort of 10 or 11 as opposed to lunchtime, but I'm agnostic. I just think we should do it at the busiest time. What I potentially had in mind, I like Mark's idea. The other option would be kind of a trolley march. So we would probably alert police in advance and get them to actually close the road. So a bit similar to the, if anyone remembers, the ride-in that we did on Sydney Road before the Spring Rebellion back in 2019, where we actually took over Sydney Road and then had a die-in outside the town hall. So I was thinking potentially we could take the trolleys from Berkeley Square, probably head north, with the trolleys potentially doing a trolley dance, etc., with most likely a police escort or police that close the roads, and then leading up potentially even to the Reds welcoming us. That was really beautiful. I remember at the High Street action that we did, the Drown-In, also ahead of the Spring Rebellion, where we walked down High Street and the Reds were there waiting for us with their symbolic gestures. So we could potentially do that and then have a die-in with the trolleys involved in some way. So that's a potential other option, I guess, but I'm also open to the swarming idea. Mark, so would that be just sort of taking each, so say, across Sydney Road on the green, like every time there's a green light, we would go out and kind of party with our trolleys and hand out flyers and whatever, and then we'd move back, do some outreach, and then back on the green light? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I kind of like your idea better. And like, in terms of this action, like all I've been thinking of was the bike thing from 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll do that again with the trolleys. I'm down.
I'm not sure. We had heaps of people at that action, so I'm not sure we'll get quite the same numbers, but we might have some more. We could build in some more elements, because I think one thing that we need to make sure is that there's enough things to sort of engage people who are part of the action, but also to engage onlookers. Sometimes we just think about the kind of critical 2 minutes of the action, and we don't think about how do we actually create the theatre for a whole, half an hour or however long the whole action might take, which is why I was thinking something that made noise, like banging pots and pans or music, etc. I've been looking at songs that have to do with hunger, and some of them have a pretty nice drum beat that you could bang some pots and pans along to it, and we could have a trolley conch line or trolley dance or something like that. The only question around that for me is whether it's a little bit too lighthearted. I know we want to, make sure it still has a serious message to it, and that we're not making fun of what are very serious issues. But yeah, so just want to put all of those ideas on the table. Yes, that Hungry Town is exactly the one that has the great drum beat. Yeah.
Rosario?
I was just going to say that in Argentina and also in Spain, I happen to be a Spanish speaker and have spent a bit of time in both of those countries. Most strikes are accompanied by a batucada band, which is, drums, and usually the issues are very serious, but the and many demands are being made, and there are slogans being chanted and all the rest of it, but it does kind of have an uplifting, not comical, not to put down the issues. The issues are very serious generally, but to keep the energy levels high and the engagement high. So I don't think, you know, I don't know, it might not land very well culturally here, I don't know, but I don't think it's trivializing serious issues to have, you know, high energy, not musical accompaniment, but, you know,
Noise.
Drums or banging pots, you know, banging pots actually is very symbolic, particularly, you know, in some parts of the world, because often it has had to do with not only hunger, but also, you know, the engagement of everyday people who do cooking at home.
Yeah, cool. Alex.
One of the ideas I had on Thursday was, I think it should be loud to get attention and everything, but then the way to bring it back to a serious issue is not only have a die-in at the end, but snap to silence when that happens. So it's a very loud, raucous, maybe even angry kind of scene, but then it does lead to death, and that is silence at the end. And that does bring back that somber kind of vibe to it.
And that's what we did in the civil disobedience that worked really, really well as well. And it had that amazing light and shade. So you had the, you know, energy and brightness and noise, and then silence and everyone dead on the ground. And yeah, that was really effective.
All right. Is that a hand again, Rosario? No? Are there any other sort of, I guess, whole proposals? We've got a swarm on kind of one set of traffic lights for a march. In terms of the actual kind of physical mechanics of doing an action, does anybody have any other ideas? Because if we can do a straight up and down vote between those two and then come away with one, I think I consider that a very successful meeting. Mary?
I saw a video of a trolley thingy they did in the States. I think they did a conga line, and they went sort of in and out of different places. That looked incredibly good fun.
Could you put that in the chat, Mary? Are you in the Trolley Troubadours chat?
Yes. I don't know if I'll be able to find the same link again, but I'll try.
It'd be great to see that.
Well, if we're going to do a march, well, even so, like that's the sort of thing we could definitely tack on to whatever else we do. So if we're going to do a march, we sort of start with a conga line running around Berkeley Square, and then, oh, what's this? They're going down onto the road. Or, oh, what's this? They're going over to the traffic lights to swarm. So yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea. But as far as the nuts and bolts, what do we say? We have a straight up and down vote on which we like more. Do we need to talk about it more?
John, did you want to add anything?
Oh, not really. It's all kind of new to me, but they both kind of sound nerve-wracking but exciting. So yeah.
That's the best kind of action.
I'd be on board. Yeah.
I will say that I'm perfectly willing to get arrested. So if we do want a disruptive component, then I am sure others would be willing to do it. I've never been to Brunswick Police Station before. But not insisting on that in any way. Mary?
Just a little question. If you're going to, I guess, coordinate it with the police, which, I mean, I know that this is often done and it actually makes things work really well. I assume you won't be telling them you'll be pinching trolleys.
That's a good question, Mary. We'll only be borrowing them, of course. And I had thought about the possibility, how we would go and get them, because the security, if a whole bunch of us go and borrow trolleys at once, then security might have something to say about that. So we will need to think about how we go and get the trolleys. I was thinking, particularly if we did like a dance, you probably only need 6 or 8 trolleys. Other people will have pots and pans. People could even have the shopping baskets, etc. So we could do it if we had trouble. I think the more trolleys, the better. But I think if we had trouble getting trolleys, we could probably do it with a relatively small number, and they could be out the front of the march, for example, doing the dance, and everyone could be behind with the pots and pans and things. So I think we can probably get away with it. But yeah, I agree. We'll probably have to think about what we say to the police.
Yeah. All right. Well, should we just do this one or the other vote and then start to wind down?
Yeah. The only thing, I'm keen to kind of get a Facebook and Action Network event.
Yeah. Okay. All those in favour of, you can vote for both, I suppose. We'll just wind up with a higher number, or maybe we'll just wind up with everybody putting their hand up for both. All those in favour of a swarm, which is to say we go on the road during the green light, the green pedestrian light, to clarify. We dance around on the road while the cars that are already stopped by a red light watch us, and we hand out flyers to the cars, and then we move back off the road again. Once their light goes green, our light goes red, and then we sort of do that repeatedly for each new line of cars that get stopped at that light for, say, half an hour to an hour. Or do we try to organise a march from Berkeley Square, presumably north to the town hall again, or some other defined location? For option 1, put your hand up. 1. Keep them up so I can count them. Well, shit. All right. 1, 2, 3. So that's for the swarm.
That was 4.
Oh, 4. Okay. That's for the swarm. And then for the march, hands up. The marchers have it. All right. All right, we're going to do a march. We can work out the details later, but I think that's enough for us to be able to say March for Food Security, or whatever cool name we come up with for a Facebook event. What time? Do we want to assign someone to, maybe Google will tell you when
Sydney Road is busiest.
When Sydney Road is busiest.
We're going to tell you when the road is busiest as opposed to pedestrians.
Yes.
Yeah. Mall and Merribeck people, do you have a sense of when the busiest time on a Saturday is on Sydney Road?
This area?
Well, we did do a year's worth of outreach on Sydney Road between 10 and 12, and we were on the corner of Glen Lyon Road and Sydney Road, and I think, it'd be fair to say that around 11ish things started to get pretty hot on Sydney Road. People seemed to disappear a little bit around 12. Maybe they were beginning to go and have their lunch.
Maybe an 11 o'clock start is a good time.
Yeah, so 11:30. But I agree with Mark that doing a Google search might, like that particular area might have its own peculiarities. So
I think we have to be too scientific about it.
No, and it does strike me that maybe not so much nowadays, but Saturday morning shopping is a cultural economic institution going back many, many years. So I think 11 makes sense to me. All right, we're going to do a march from Berkeley Square to wherever at 11. We're going to involve trolleys in some way. Perhaps, we'll do a sound system, we'll do some pots and pans. I really like that idea. If we wind up with pots and pans, I'm happy to run a rhythm workshop in the weekend before, maybe. Can we take it from there? What else do we need by the end of this meeting? Alfred?
Can I mention there are a lot of trolleys down the street. We don't have to get them from the shopping centre itself. Stray trolleys and in the parking area.
Well, yes, we have 2 in our garage, don't we? Mary?
I think that's an incredibly good idea to collect them. That would put us on such moral high ground.
We're in the process of returning them to the...
Yeah, that would, because I mean, like, I've got one I could push from North Melbourne that's sitting at the end of our road, you know, seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my only question, is that how, like, it's more difficult to transport them, whereas if we just start at a supermarket and borrow them, they're right there for us. So I have no, you know, people want to do that, great, BYO trolleys, but I don't think we need to spend too much time trying to gather trolleys from around Melbourne.
No.
It could be an alibi. It's the sort of thing that maybe you could publicise that, you know, bring an abandoned trolley, return it to its home after the action. You know, it could be an alibi.
Yeah. If they want to arrest me for borrowing a trolley from the supermarket, they can go right ahead.
I'm just talking about local trolleys that are very
yeah.
close
And look,
to the supermarket.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
As someone who rides a bicycle, bringing a trolley to the action is probably not going to work for me, but if anyone wants to do that, then they're obviously very welcome to do that.
Right.
Do we have a volunteer then to make this event and get going with publicising it?
One thing to note is that the next XR Vic newsletter content is due by Sunday. It would be great to have this event ready to go to publicise in that. I'm away this weekend, otherwise I would volunteer to do this. I may have some time on Friday, but I can't guarantee it. So if there is anyone who wants to put this together, I'm happy to have a look at copy or whatever. That would be great.
Any volunteers? All right, I'll do it. And in fact, I've got XR Vic permission, so I can just go ahead and post it once it's ready as well. All right, any other things we need to say right now? We're coming to a nice smooth landing at 7:59.
No, I think that's all. We want to have an arts workshop. I've been trying to get in touch with the key holders of J Studio in North Fitzroy, but as we mentioned earlier, Bub's on a bit of a break at the moment and it's been hard to get in touch with. So I will keep trying, but if that doesn't happen, Kat McLeod has offered her garage in Northcote, where we can have a little arts workshop to make placards and banners and whatever else we want. And I think Mark's idea of having a percussion workshop is a great idea as well. So I'll keep pursuing that and hopefully lock in a date. It will either be the Sunday, the 7th, 14th or 21st ahead of the action.
Alex and I have a nice big backyard as well.
Oh, beautiful.
Garage, I think they're nice with that.
Yeah.
To Rosario?
I just wanted to say that we could make some special badges if we had some messaging because we are going to continue the badge making workshop on Sunday. So if anyone would like to join us this Sunday, it's at 11:30 at the office. And I just wanted to also mention that Belle from XR Integration wanted me to ask, would there be anyone who would be willing, who is not already doing it, to do rebel ringing? We need a couple of people from Northside to begin doing ringing for Northside new rebels. And she also wanted to offer a big orangey red banner, if we wanted, that says new gas equals climate chaos equals floods, fires and extinction. It's 5 meters long, commercially made. We could use it for our trolley action if we wanted to.
Yeah, sounds good.
Right. But maybe we'll come back to thinking about banners and props and key messages and all of that stuff, if that's okay, just given the time.
Yeah, no, let's wrap it up. I should have done this earlier in the meeting. I would like to open the floor to poor Jonathan, deer in the headlights over here, to ask any burning questions you might have of us for this moment. I applaud your courage in coming along to a Zoom meeting full of strangers, watching them do admin for an hour and a half. I promise it's much more exciting on the street.
Look, no, I have 2 children under 5, and I'm a teacher. I'm used to boring